Thank you so much for participating in my course on the ethics of touch and psychotherapy. And
Thank you.
yeah, so I just want to introduce everybody to you as being my mentor for the last, many years. And you teach a few different courses that integrate touch and psychotherapy. So I thought that you'd be a really good source to help psychotherapists either who are using touch or who are resistant or uncomfortable with the idea because of all the taboos in the field.
Okay, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I'm really curious about how you got started using touch in therapy.
It was interesting because I had been working with children for a long time, and I was a registered play therapist, and as a registered play therapist, we never touched. Then I started working more with developmental trauma and moving towards the adoption community. I took somatic experiencing, and I was in the training, came to California for advanced. Kathy Kane was the teacher, along with another teacher who had to leave because of an emergency. So she ended up teaching advanced 1 and 2 for me. And in that process, she was already, that's her gift, is touch and using touch. And she teaches a course called Touch Skills Training for Psychotherapy. Was what it was called when I took it. Mm-hmm. Now it's changed names. So immediately I finished advanced in January, February, and 2 weeks later I was in I was in Victoria, British Columbia, taking a class with her and started using touch in my practice immediately. I mean, I really came home and like a pioneer, I guess, because there was no one else using touch with children that I was aware of at the level and intensity I was using touch at that time.
So you were getting out the table and putting kids on the table right from then?
Right. And as soon as I figured it out, and the reason I figured it out so fast is that I had my own issues with developmental trauma, and I had my own things going on, and I really didn't understand regulation completely. That part hadn't come on board yet, or resiliency. But I knew that there was something about this touch process that was causing my nervous system and my body to react in a way it had never reacted before. And even though it seemed very scary at the time, I knew it was something I needed to do. So I kept going forward. I kept pushing and started doing private sessions for myself, going to work with Kathy Kane. I came out. That's when she was still in practice. Did some work, and I began integrating it. I knew that it made sense to me. Talk therapy never made a lot of sense to me because of the fact I work with so much developmental trauma, so much nonverbal entry. And when I'm looking at it from a nonverbal entry, touch made total sense for me.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking about those early days, and you start getting clients in, and you say, all right, we're going to get on the table. How did you overcome your hesitancy, or was there any hesitancy about touch with the taboos and everything?
Well, there's a lot of disadvantages to having developmental trauma, and there are also some advantages. And one of the advantages for me was the fact that I really didn't have a lot of hesitancy. It was like, okay, this works, I'm going to do it. And it was almost like I sold it, I guess, kind of like, this is really good, and this is something new I've learned, and I think this would be beneficial to you, and let's see what happens. Mm-hmm. And I approached it from that standpoint. And so when and I also told my clients, I did a personal disclosure. I said, this is something I am doing. Mm-hmm. And I did, Trisha O'Brien was in my office at the time. She's an SE trained therapist who's in Boston now, but she was in Austin at the time. And she and I shared an office together, and I would put her on the table every day. Every day I would practice with her. And it just built up until it's just like, it's part of me. My table is part of me. It's part of what's going to happen when you come to see me. Mm-hmm. It isn't separate, as it isn't scary. It's just part of me.